Okay, good afternoon and welcome to this hybrid meeting of the Development Management Review Committee. I would remind all attendees that the meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I've agreed the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. And I can also remind remote members attending hybrid meetings where quasi-judicial matters are being considered that they will not be permitted to participate by audio only and must have their video and camera functions switched on at all times. For any members of the public watching, please note that all the public committee reports, including specific recommendations, are available on the Council's website. So we'll start with the agenda. Number 1, apologies on substitutes.
Thank you, Convener. We have apologies from Councillor McLaren, with Councillor Fotheringham substituting.
Okay, thanks for that. And declarations of interest and statements of transparency. Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you, Convener. As a statement of transparency, I'm a former builder contractor and was widely known and knew of the farming fraternity. And as a councillor, you get to know more people in the county. I have not spoken or had contact with this applicant in the last 30 years, and I will be staying in the meeting and will be voting. That's the second one.
Okay, yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Councillor Nicholl. That's grand. Okay, there's none else. Okay, Mr. Christensen.
Thanks, Convener. Whilst I'm also making a statement in relation to item 6, whilst I'm obviously not involved in the decision making, the item, I know one of the interested parties is known to me. I had no discussions with the interested party during the original planning application, nor during the notice of review process, and therefore have no conflict with presenting the case to members.
Okay, thanks very much for clarifying that. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any more. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, which is the minute of the previous meeting. That was the meeting of 12th September. Is that minute correct?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, everyone happy with that? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 4, which is exclusion of public and press. The committee is asked to consider in terms of Standing Order 27.2 where the public and press should be excluded during consideration of item 7, it's the last item, so to avoid the disclosure of information which is exempt in terms of Part 1 of Schedule 7A of the Local Government Scotland Act in 1973. Are we agreed that if we should want to discuss anything in item 7 that we do that in private? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we shall move on to the first case today, which is item 5, a field 200 metres southeast of Cotton of Brighty, Teeling, Dundee. And the case will be presented by Mr. Christensen, who will take us through the slides, etc. So over to you, Mr. Christensen. We're not getting any sound. Is there ready to go?
Sorry,
okay.
Sorry, Convener. I'm just trying to share. Just share the screen. Sorry.
That's it. We've got it on screen now, so we're fine.
Hopefully. Thank you. Good afternoon, members. I'm Paul Christensen of the Development Plan Team at Angus Council, present today as Independent Plan Advisor to the committee. I can confirm that I've had no previous involvement in this application and that I have no conflict of interest relative to the case, applicant or any interested party. The case in front of members of the Development Management Review Committee seeks review of refusal of an application for planning permission for the temporary planning permission for erection of an accommodation unit for a period of 2 years and associated works on a field 200 metres southeast of Cotton of Brighty, Teeling. The application site consists of an existing access track leading to a clearing in a wooded area which contains an existing residential accommodation unit. This current unit currently does not have planning permission. The information submitted with the planning application indicated that the applicant proposes to use the accommodation for themselves and their family while they undertake forestry and agricultural activities in the area and educate their children about biodiversity and sustainable agricultural and forestry practices. The accommodation unit has a footprint of approximately 85 square metres and the height above ground level is approximately 3.5 metres to the ridge. The unit provides all the facilities of self-contained accommodation, such as a living room, 3 bedrooms, one of which is marked as a study, a kitchen and 2 shower rooms, and includes an extension on the southwest elevation to provide a boot room. The extension is physically attached to the main unit. A flue serving a wood-burning stove projects from the main roof. No foul drainage or water connection is currently provided on site, but if permission was granted, the papers in front of members indicate that a private water supply, borehole and a septic tank for foul drainage would be installed to serve the temporary unit. If we go into the slides. Remember, see the slides okay?
On slide 1, the initial slide.
Yep. I just want to make members aware that I visited the site on the 31st of October and wasn't able to get full access to the site. So the site photographs that I'm going to share with members are a combination of photographs that were taken previously by the planning service in relation to the enforcement case, and also photographs taken by the applicant which are submitted with the application and in front of members today. First of all, the location plan. The one on the left, the plan shows the A90 road, the main road between Dundee and Forfar, and you can see the site is marked with a red circle at Curtin O'Brighty. The map to the right shows in blue the area owned, the land owned by the applicant, and the red line area shows the application site that is being discussed today. More detailed site plan, again, the application site is marked in red. The woodland area is marked in green. You can see the site, application site is mainly access track until it reaches the cleared woodland area. And in black here, you can see where the accommodations unit sits. The existing elevations of the accommodation unit shows a typical accommodation unit. It shows with the southeast elevation, all the elevations are shown. One on the bottom right, the northwest elevation, where my cursor is shown, shows the extension that's been added to the existing accommodation unit, which is the boot room. And you can see the flue as well from the wood burning stove projecting above the roofline. The existing floor plan, as I said in my earlier commentary, the existing floor plan shows a standard accommodation unit, a living room, kitchen area, the boot room at the front, and also the 3 bedrooms, one of which is marked as a study area, and 2 shower rooms are also shown on the existing floor plan. The site overview, the red line area of the application site is shown where my cursor is moving at the moment, and it takes it down to the bottom right hand corner here where the woodland area is cleared and the accommodation unit sits there. Site entrance to the site, the application site, as I said when I visited the site on Friday the 31st of October, the site access was locked, but it shows just a standard gate with the access track leading in towards the site. The accommodation unit, the south elevation, again, it shows the standard accommodation unit with extension on the front hosting the boot room. The west elevation has 2 large window areas which can obviously be opened out. The east elevation on the opposite side, again, shows a window area with, again, a window opening can be opened. The north elevation, which really is the rear of the accommodation unit, again just shows the sort of a standard accommodation unit with windows to the sort of living accommodation, the bedrooms and living room area. That concludes the slides, members. The case officer report, notice of review, grounds of appeal, and other information, including the previous reporter's report from the enforcement case, are detailed in papers in front of members. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Mr. Christensen. Any questions for Mr. Christensen initially on this one?
Convener, but of the officer right now. I can do that? Okay. Mr. Christensen, hello, good afternoon. Just reading through several times, in fact, and you mentioned it as well, I'm sure you mentioned it a minute ago, about the boring for the water. What makes anybody think that there would be water there?
I think the application has indicated that the borehole would only be put in place when permission is granted. Now, I think Environmental Health have raised concerns about that in their comments back on the original application in relation to the additional work would need to be submitted with any borehole that was drawn. Maybe Mr. Petrie can explain a little bit further in terms of that process and what would be required. I'm not an expert in that matter, but Mr. Petrie may be able to advise further on that.
Yes, Mr. Petrie, can you interject at this point? This is a question about the water supply.
Certainly. Thanks, Convener. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, yep.
Yeah, exactly. So we would require a bit extra work to be undertaken to show that a borehole could provide a wholesome supply of water to this property, but we don't know at this moment in time. There's very little work being done. So we'd want to know that A, it could provide the yield necessary, and B, that the water supply itself was wholesome. They would have to do some sampling, risk assessments, and a water safety plan for us to be able to support this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You happy with that, Councillor Clark?
I am at the moment.
Okay, you can have another question. I've got Councillor Beattie online with a question, and then I think Councillor Nicholl and perhaps Councillor Clark coming back again. Councillor Beattie.
Yeah, just in terms of what the building is actually sitting on just now, you can't see it because it's hidden by what looks like insulation boards. Is it on wheels or is it on a foundation? What's underneath those boards?
Thanks, Councillor Beattie. Yeah, unfortunately, as I say, I wasn't able to get access on 31st of October to the site. It was all locked up. So I can't answer fully that question. It certainly looks like it doesn't look like it's on wheels. The application, we got some information submitted by the applicant indicated that the unit had been present since 2022. So I can't give any sort of more full answer than that, I'm afraid, because obviously I wasn't able to view the site in person myself when I visited it.
But just to add, Mr. Christensen, technically it is not a caravan, is that correct?
That's correct, Convener. That was pointed out in the reporter appeal decision for the enforcement case on the basis of the size of the accommodation that's currently there. The extension that is provided on the front, the area that's identified as a boot room, brought the size or the width of the accommodation unit, made it greater than what a caravan would classify under the Caravan Act.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you, Convener. Just to kind of clarify me, is it up for retrospective permission, or is it up for a temporary permission? For what reason? Like a worker putting up a piling in the area and then moving on? Or is it up for full permission? Or is it somebody trying to squeeze in the back door?
Can you answer that one, Mr. Christensen?
I'll try my best. The accommodation is currently in situ. It doesn't have planning permission, and it hasn't had planning permission. The applicant is applying for a temporary permission for 2 years, after which time it's indicated that the unit would be removed. I think the papers in front of members, certainly the report of handling, goes through clearly the implications of that, and also why the planning authority didn't consider it met the terms of the seasonal accommodation policy, and also the National Planning Framework 4 policy in terms of rural development, and also in terms of rural homes. So there are various policies that the planning authority have assessed the accommodation unit against, and considered it fails those policy tests. I hope that answers the question as best I can.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mr. Christensen. I mean, we're kind of speculating what's happening here, but the applicant is saying that they are doing some forestry type work in that area, or perhaps some farming, but they're not living in it not living in it permanently. Is that your assumption?
I think it's difficult to sort of say. I think what they're applying for is for 2-year periods, so you have to assume that they will be living in that permanently for 2 years. They're obviously doing some agricultural and some woodland forestry operations. But again, if you refer to the reporter's decision notice and the enforcement case that was brought to the DPAA, they've indicated that they considered that the operations was almost like for personal activity rather than for commercial activity or commercial farming and woodland. I think the report of handling also indicates that position hasn't changed, and that was the planning authority view at the time of determining the application.
Yeah, I think the phrase I picked up was hobby farming, I think, from the reporter. So any other questions for Mr. Christensen? Councillor Clark.
Just to clarify, Mr. Christensen, what I was reading about the septic tank, is there a septic tank? Well, sorry, I'm just wondering if you're going to know that, because you couldn't get in, is that right? Would somebody know if there's a septic tank?
Do you know on this one, Mr. Christensen, or maybe does Mr. Petrie know whether there's a septic tank? I'm not clear. I picked it up in the papers.
I have to be honest with Clerk Clark. I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I'm just looking back at the sort of the notes, and I'd have to review the papers again in further detail to answer that question specifically.
Mr. Petrie came up on my screen here, so maybe he knows the answer. I don't know. We can ask him.
Thanks, Convener. Unfortunately, no, I don't know the answer either. We only really commented on the private water supply, but if it was to be reside in full time, they would have to have something of that nature. Yeah.
Okay, so we don't know the answer to that question.
That's fine, Convener.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's clearly been difficult for them to get access, so thank you.
Right, okay, Mr. Christensen, on you go. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add to that is, like the issue with the borehole being put in place, it may be that there isn't one at the moment, but the intention would be to put one. That's the only thing I could say at the moment. But we can't be certain on that.
Okay, thanks for that. So one question from me. So just so that we're all clear what happened, the accommodation unit was being occupied by the applicant. The council then took enforcement action. We basically wanted them to cease living there, and then they appealed that, and then a reporter came to examine that case and dismissed the appeal, and that was 17th of October last year. So that's the situation. So it was looked at by the reporter, who dismissed the appeal. That's correct?
That's correct, yes.
And what's happened now is the applicant has made a fresh appeal for, or is now applying for planning permission in the first instance, which they didn't do before. So that's their attempt to try and regulate matters.
That's correct, because the appeal decision was in relation to, in effect, it being a caravan.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions for any other officers? We've obviously got Mr. Petrie on the call, and we have Mr. Hudson from Roads as well. So no questions. Okay, do we have enough information to determine this one? Okay. Okay, everyone clear we've got enough information. Okay, so I'll just ask people for their thoughts on this one. Perhaps start with Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Convener. This is a very strange one. Unfortunate things that have happened here. It's certainly not transparent to me enough. I've asked questions and officers are unable to give me the answers through no fault of their own. But if I were to go so far as to what I want to say is I couldn't, in all honesty, grant anything this place to stay there. It just hasn't followed anything that I would expect. I used to run a caravan park myself. I can tell you the width and the length, the biggest one would be, and that's massive. So, and probably very nice, but it shouldn't be there. Planning, for me, is about the right planning application in the right place. Now, I can tell you that if you want it right now, I can tell you the policies of things it goes against in the local development plan and NPF 4 if you want that, but it's quite strand.
I think if you minded to reject the appeal, then you reject it on the basis that the officers have rejected. They itemised why the project.
That's fine. That's fine, Convener, thanks.
Thank you, Convener. I'm in agreement with Councillor Clark. This sticking a shed up in the middle of wood and then try and come in the back door to make it into eventually a lovely lodge in the wood. I don't think they've. The reporter had refused it. What is there? We would be going against the reporter. I don't think it. I think it's up for failure.
Thank you, Convener. Again, I would agree with both my colleagues and look to reject the application on the grounds that you described, which are in the papers.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Fotheringham.
Thank you very much, Convener. Yeah, like my colleague Councillor Clark says, it is a very strange one and lots of unanswered questions through no fault at all of our officers. If we can't get the answers to the things we're asking for, then I'm afraid, I will go with the officers, what the officers are telling us, and also the Scottish Office reporter. So I would go for refusal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Beattie.
Yeah, total agreement with my colleagues there. We have to refuse this appeal. I'm really happy with the way the officers have conducted the report handling. And yeah, I would reject the appeal completely.
Okay, thanks, colleagues. Yes, I would agree with all of you. The fact that this has been through the reporter who basically felt that this was not a suitable location and place for a dwelling, I think, is fairly clear. That's been looked at, and I think our officers have outlined in the paper why we should reject this one. I think we are unanimous about that, so I don't think we need to go through the formality of a vote. If we're all happy with that we say that planning application 24/00747/full, the appeal is rejected for the reasons stated in the paper by officers. Okay.
Thank you, Convener.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on now to I'll get my numbering correct here, item 6, which is land 50 metres west of Corner Cottage, West Hall, Kellis. and we'll ask Mr. Christensen again to introduce this one. Just a warning to elected members that the item 7, which is further details about the application and the family and the business, that is effectively what we would call in green paper. If anyone wants to discuss or make, we will have to stop the live stream. We actually have the applicants in the chamber, so we don't have to ask them to clear the chamber, but we would have to cut off the live stream. Just to caution you about that. So, okay, over to you, Mr. Christensen, on item 6.
Thank you, Convener. Good afternoon again. I'm Paul Christensen of the Development Plan Team, Angus Council, present today as Independent Plan Advisor to the Committee. I've already read a statement out at the beginning of the meeting in terms of that I have no conflict of interest, although I knew one of the parties involved. The case in front of members of the DMRC seeks review of refusal of an application for plan permission for the erection of a dwelling house for a retiring farmer on land 50 metres west of Connor Cottage, Westhall, Kellis. The application site is located immediately to the west of the existing Kellis development boundary in the Angus Local Development Plan, and has a site area of approximately 1,485 square metres. The public road lies to the north of the site, residential development to the east, and agricultural land to the south. The proposal would create a 3-bedroom dwelling house, which would be 1.5 storeys in height. An integral double garage is proposed at the front. The elevations would have pitched roofs, and the materials would consist of a mix of timber effect aluminium rain screen cladding and a dry stone external leaf on the walls and natural slate on the roofs. The application form indicates that the dwelling would be connected to the public water supply network. Foul drainage would be directed to a septic tank, which would discharge to land via soakaway, and surface water drainage would be dealt with by SUDS. Moving to the slides. The location plan, the B978 road on the site on the map on the left, sorry, the B978 road between Dundee and Wellbank runs through Kellis, which is just where my cursor is showing at the moment, and the application site is marked in red. The map on the right shows that in a little more detail. The B978 furthest to the right, running north-south. The application site marked outline in red. The area owned by the applicant is marked in blue. Site location plan in more detail, again, shows the Kellis Road B978, farthest right, shows the existing residential development, which lies to the east of the application site, marked in red. Immediately to the west of that application site was the previous works undertaken by SSE in relation to the renewables. We'll see that area in more detail in site photographs in a moment. The next plan shows the site location in relation to the Kellis development boundary. The outline of the area in black shows the existing development boundary in the Angus Local Development Plan, and the area marked in red shows the approximate location of it, not fully the full outline area, but shows the location of the application site out with, but immediately adjacent to that development boundary. The proposed site block plan, it shows how the site would be, the house would be orientated, access from the public road to the north, and it obviously shows that the general orientation of the site within the red line area. Again, more detailed site plan shows that in a little more detail, the orientation of the site and the sort of the layout of the internal area of the house, and the access from the public road to the north shows more clearly how the site would be laid out. Next plan shows the south and east elevations that are proposed. Clearly, the southern elevation has a lot more glazing on it, which is the sort of the front aspect, which looks down towards Dundee. The north and west elevations, the northern elevation shows the integral garage area that's proposed for cars, and shows the main entrance to the property itself. Again, the proposed floor plans show the general layout of how the house would be laid out inside. Again, it's a sort of a standard layout for a house. And the proposed roof plan shows how the roof obviously would look above, if you like, shows that there are obviously some window openings in the roof area to provide additional light to the property. Again, this next plan shows a proposed section of the site, and it shows the sort of general how this sort of land sort of does fall away down towards sort of the southern area, down, if you like, down towards where Dundee sits further, obviously down, but it's that sort of slopes away. Looking at the site photographs, this is a site of the public road which lies immediately to the north of the application site. The application site sits just where my cursor is flashing here on the right hand side. It's currently agricultural land. Immediately to the east of that are the residential dwellings that are already in place. And the boundary wall, which delineates the site from the current Kells development boundary, is shown just where my cursor is at the moment. The site looking southeast, again, it shows that the application site is currently agricultural land, and again you can see the residential development immediately to the east of the site, with again the Kells development boundary, the delineated wall running north-south. This photograph shows the eastern boundary of the site, which, as I said, delineates the Kells development boundary from the application site, which just lies within the agricultural land to the right-hand side of the boundary wall. Looking southwest across the application site, this is from the public road, which lies to the north. Again, you can see that there is a sort of a downward section, slopes downhill. It's agricultural land, and you can see that it obviously has a southerly aspect in terms of views looking down towards Dundee and towards beyond that the River Tay, or the Tay estuary as well. The public road looking west towards Westhall Farm. This is obviously the applicant's farm, and it shows again the proximity of shows the approximate location of where the application site would be towards in relation to the existing farm. That concludes the presentation, members. The case officer report, notice of review, grounds of appeal and other information is detailed in the papers in front of members. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much indeed for that. Questions for Mr. Christensen? Councillor Nicholl.
I don't honestly know if it's an actual question, but it's almost an argument. I mean, this site is a prime site. It's a good site. It's in a corner where modern machinery is not working well there. Now, this...
Are you asking Mr. Christensen a question about the agricultural land?
Well, it's agricultural land, it's the working of the land, and it's the NFP4 policy 17.56, which entitles that area to be a retired farmer's house, or a retired farmer's widow's house, or for more intensive workforce.
Okay, we'll take that as
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Can I just ask that you make sure your mic's on, because sometimes it drops off. So my question is around the guidelines. Now, the guidelines are mentioned in the reasons for decision. Now, we have been told in previous meetings on other applications that we should set aside the guidelines and just focus on NPF4. But we see them here mentioned that these are reasons for refusal. Can you clarify that position for us, please?
Over to you on that one, Mr. Christensen. I think we have had that debate before in other cases.
Are you talking about? Can you just clarify what specific guidelines you're talking about? I think I know, but I'm just wanting to be double certain I don't answer something incorrectly where you might be seeking something else.
Sure, that's no problem. So the reasons for decision, certainly in the second reason number 2, the application is contrary to policy TC2 of Angus Local Development Plan and its associated countryside housing supplementary guidance. And then again in reason 3, Angus Local Development Plan and associated design quality and placemaking supplementary guidance. Now we've had this discussion with planning officers where they've said, oh, you just have to ignore these guidance documents and concentrate on NPF4, but they're coming up in reasons for refusal in appeals. Now, do we ignore the guidance and concentrate on NPF4, or do we accept the guidance? It's conflicting information, so we really need to be clear.
I think, okay. Yeah, well, I can understand your difficulty. I think we were advised that both are still relevant, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Christensen, but if they are contradictory, we should follow the most recent document, which is NPF4, which was approved in February 23, whereas the local development plan is 2016. That's my understanding. If they're contradictory, we follow the most recent set of rules. Is that right, Mr. Christensen?
I think what Councillor Beattie and yourselves, yes, I mean, what the position is that both the National Planning Framework 4 and the Angus Local Development Plan 2016 make up the development plan. The policies in NPF4 cover obviously now the whole of Scotland. Policy TC2 and DS3 of the Angus Local Development Plan, so it's still relevant to making up the development plan, are obviously more, let's call it, Angus specific criteria in terms of how Angus wants to assess specific, more sort of site-specific issues. So I think that's why those two policies are referenced there, and supplementary guidance, obviously, that's in place for those two policies still forms part of the development plan. Does that make sense?
It does, and you know, I get the convener's point about where there's a conflict, but we've had applications where there wasn't actually a conflict, but we were told to ignore the guidelines. Now, this to me is an issue, and I think it should be clear. You know, because I'm thinking of other applications, but I want to make sure that we're clear for this application that we are accepting the guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, I think the guidelines, the report of handling is dated 15th of August. So, I mean, for development management, they have obviously assessed the application on the basis of NPF4 and the relevant policy of the Angus Local Development Plan. So, in my view, therefore, in this case, that the policies that have been assessed against are the right policies to be assessing the case against. This is only sort of 2.5 months ago that this decision was made. So I think in this case, that is the case. And as I said in my previous answers, NPF4, as I say, covers Scotland, but there are more specific, if you like, Angusified aspects to policy TC2, more site-specific issues in Angus, more specific for Angus, and it's the same for policy DS3 as well, and the associated supplementary guidance.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Clark?
I suppose Councillor Beattie kind of beat me to it there, because I was getting slightly angsty, if that's the right word, about this as well. But I'm really, I suppose, a question. It would have been, it's now a comment. I feel a lot more comforted. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Christensen? Any questions for any other officers? I'm going to ask if we feel we have enough information on this one to determine the application or not. Councillor Nicholl?
I honestly don't think a site visit would be beneficial. I mean, we can see the site. We're all aware of the area, and it's just down to whether NFP4 policy applies to that farm, as opposed to the farmer buying a site in the middle of Moneyfeith or something. This is what this policy, the 5 and the 6, cover. And I think that's where we're arguing out that the farmers have applied under policy NFP 4 policy 1756, and we are there to decide whether that's relevant.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually agree with you. I think a site visit would be beneficial. Now, I'm conscious that many of us have been in that area fairly recently, but we were looking at other things. We weren't looking at this particular farm. And for me, one of the issues is the fact that it's one of the reasons for refusal is it's outside the development boundary. I think that's one issue. You know, we see that it's contrary to TC2, and the applicant's arguing that they are rounding off a series of buildings, which from the slides you could see that argument has some merit. There's also suggestion that, well, it could be approved if it was in a different location. Or I think I'd like to have a look at these sort of issues. So I'm familiar with the roads roundabout there. We had a look at these junctions fairly closely on another planning matter. Personally, I'd like to visit on site. That's my view. Councillor Meehan?
I think I would agree with that. I would think that a site visit would be helpful.
What's the view of the rest of the committee? Councillor Fotheringham and then Councillor Clark.
I know this area well, convener. It's in my ward, but maybe other members do not. So if members feel a site visit would be beneficial, then I'll go along with a site visit. Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
I wasn't going to ask for a site visit, but I do usually go on site visits, and I do think you gave a compelling argument there. So I'd be happy to go on a site visit.
And Councillor Beattie, so everyone's had their say.
Yeah, I like Councillor Clark, I wasn't going to ask for a site visit. I think we've got enough. However, I'm happy to go with the majority, and since it looks like 3-2, site visit it is.
Okay, thanks for that. So we've agreed that we will have an unaccompanied site visit. We'll ask Mrs. Stewart to organise that, and we'll have that at a point in not too distant future, and we'll see it on site, and then we'll come back and we'll be in a position to make a decision. We all happy with that? Okay, well, yep. Thanks for your attendance today, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Can we stop the